What's up, guys? This is Taking the Field with Stevie Mac, episode 30 of the podcast. I'm your host, Stephen MacDonald, and it's day 3 of the PLL Championship Series. But before we get into that, I want to take a look back at this opening weekend of the Championship Series and kind of give you some of my takeaways from each team that played this weekend. Starting with the Whipsnakes, they are who we thought they were, only possibly better than we could have thought, because they were able to replace that offensive production, at least for now, that they lost in the expansion draft with guys like Drew Snyder, Connor Kelly, and Ryan Drenner, by replacing them with guys like Zed Williams and Brad Smith, who balled out on Saturday. Now, the Whipsnakes, with that win, moved to 3-1 all-time against the Redwoods, winning the last 3 meetings with the Redwoods, including that 2019 championship game. Kyle Bernlohr, looked really good in net, making 68% of his save opportunities, and Joe Nardella basically won them the game at the faceoff stripe by winning 68% of his faceoffs while adding 2 goals and an assist on top of that. Now, on the flip side with the Redwoods, they have some things to figure out with their offensive spacing at attack with guys like Ryder Garnsey and Brendan Cavanaugh, because they basically play a similar style and they both want to get to the same spots on the field from behind the cage. And really what I noticed was that Cavanaugh was operating more on the wings on Saturday and also kind of showed himself floating inside a bit as well near the crease. So I think that's something that is worth watching going forward as they play later tonight on NBC, but we'll get to a little bit that later on. And then guys like Joe Walters were basically non-factors offensively for the Woods on Saturday, and Walters is really one of their feeders up top in that offense, with guys like Miles Jones and Sergio Perkovic and Brent Adams to work with around him, and they really need to give him the ball a little bit more and just let him go distribute. And I've got another player that I'll talk about something similar to that with another team in just a few minutes. Then you look at the later game with the Chaos and the Chrome. Reardon didn't really look like the defending goalie of the year in the PLL on Saturday, especially not in that second half, with the Chaos being outscored 9-1 by the Chrome in that second half. And the offense, I think, got a little too cute and relaxed in the second half, and it cost them in that second half, where guys like Fields were doing those behind the back passes and the behind the back shots and things like that. So a little too cute for me. It was nice in the first half when they were winning, but I think it kind of came back and bit them in that second half. And then defensively, their guys struggled a little bit with some of their one-on-one matchups. Jared Newman specifically called himself out when they talked to him under the helmet in his mic, and said that Wolf was just straight up beating him one-on-one in that matchup throughout the first half. And I said it on the podcast on Friday that I had a strong feeling that the Chrome were going to get this championship started on the right foot, this championship series started on the right foot, and upset the Chaos in that game, and I turned out to be right. Now getting into the Chrome, Connor Farrell sparked that comeback himself by winning 12 straight faceoffs in that second half. He did finish with 19 for the game, topping the 15 that Joe Nardella got in the game prior to that one. Now, Justin Gutterding did take some time to get going for the Chrome, but Wolf basically carried the load there in that first half for them. He just absolutely balled out in that first half against Newman. And the defense really bared down in the second half in front of John Galloway and basically gave up nothing to the Chaos offense. And the Chrome, as we all kind of expected coming into this championship series, are very, very gritty. If they're going to lose, they're going to make you play a full 48 minutes against them and make you earn everything that you get. And then finally on Sunday was the final game of that opening weekend between the Water Dogs and the Atlas. And the Water Dogs came out hot, plain and simply. They looked very sharp early on both sides of the ball, but looked especially sharp moving the ball offensively. I thought their passes were very clean, very precise. Guys knew where they were supposed to be, when they were supposed to be there. It was just very, very smooth. And faceoff looked good early too, with guys like Withers basically getting the better of Baptiste for much of that first quarter and part of the second quarter as well. But really what kind of hurt them was the late turnovers in that game cost them. I believe they had 3 on their final 4 possessions, I thought I read. And then they also went the final 18 minutes That's a quarter and a half. They went 18 minutes without scoring a goal to end that game. So that was a big reason why the score ended up being the way that it was. Now, finally, with the Atlas, they had their signature slow start, just like we saw countless times in 2019, so that was a little disappointing to see from them. In the first half, the defense did look a little bit lost at times. Like I said, the ball movement from the Water Dogs was just absolutely ridiculously clean, and it seemed like the Atlas at times were always just a step or two behind. But Jack Kincannon really locks it down in the second half of these games a lot, and more specifically in the fourth quarter, and he's just absolutely lights out from the doorstep in close against shooters. I mean, the guy is a walking stat. The defense did, however, get it together and started to figure things out a little bit more as the game went on. I think they kind of settled in there in the second half a little more, but they will be tested against this Archers offense tonight in that late game at 9:30 Eastern. But again, I'll get into more of that stuff here in just a minute. But really my question from the Atlas game was, why was Joel Tinney not playing offense yesterday? He was almost exclusively taking runs as a short stick D mid, and really it just kind of disturbed me a little bit because he's one of your best distributors on the team that you have. I believe last year he was fourth on the team in assists with 8, but he was also rated as the number 2 dodge to feed midfielder in the entire PLL in 2019. And the only time you really had him on offense was about 3 or 4 possessions that I saw. You had him just stuffed down there by the crease until you could sub him out for somebody else. So really, I just want to know, why was one of your best feeders exclusively playing defense? Like he barely touched the offensive side of the field. I mean, I get it. You had this new shiny toy in Rob Pennell that you wanted to just let loose with. I get it. We all got it. We saw it. But really what I wanted to see from their offense was being able to move the ball a little more freely, whereas what we saw yesterday was just work the ball down the alley, get it to X, let Pennell do his thing one-on-one with his matchup when he's inverted, maybe run a little two-man game with Eric Law from behind, different things like that. But we didn't really see them move the ball all that well, and the PLL Twitter account even mentioned the fact that through 3 quarters, the Atlas middies had no points. And you got Rabel, Busick, Crawley, Romar Dennis, all those guys, no points through 3 quarters. Do you think a guy like Joel Tinney, who knows how to get these guys the ball, could have made at least a little bit of a difference in that case? I would think so. So I do want to see the Atlas kind of open up the offensive repertoire a little bit here tonight against the Archers, because plain and simply, I think if they want to keep up with the Archers, they're going to have to. Because the Archers are going to have shooters coming from all over the place. You got Schreiber up top, dodging off that 2-man game with Dominique Alexander. And that's not even to mention guys like Ament, who's going to be making his PLL debut tonight. And then you already know what you're going to see from Marcus Holman and Will Manny. You're going to see shots for days from those guys. So really, I want to see Tinney be more of a staple in this offense, distributing the ball, giving these guys open looks, because the looks are there. And I've mentioned it a million times on this podcast, and I'll probably mention it a few more times during this championship series, but the Atlas have a lot of shooters on this team. They just need somebody that can get them the ball. But now we move into day 3 here of the championship series. We've got the Chaos and the Redwoods kicking things off tonight on NBC at 7 p.m. Eastern. And really, just to kind of preview this matchup a little bit, the Chaos blew that second half lead because they were too busy worrying about players chirping their team, and they struggled to win faceoffs. Then again, so did the Redwoods. Now, offensively, they need to not worry about getting so cute and getting the highlight plays, and just worry about putting the ball in the back of the net. Defensively, they need to win their one-on-one matchups a little more often than they did on Saturday with, like I said, Jared Newman even admitting personally that he was getting burned by Jordan Wolf time and time again. And the Redwoods need to figure out their spacing with Ryder Garnsey and Matt Kavanaugh. Without Jules Henningberg, they need to figure out life without Jules Henningberg in that offense. And then middies like Joe Walters need to become more of an X factor on offense, being able to move the ball and distribute it to some of the shooters within that offense that they have. And then defensively, the Redwoods actually communicated very well on Saturday against the Whipsnakes, and they need to keep that up in order to continue building on that good chemistry and that momentum that they built on Saturday. But face-off needs to be better. You know, Greg Piskoljan struggled mightily in that first game, and I really wondered why they didn't give rookie face-off specialist Peyton Smith a look in that game, because in my opinion, he really couldn't have done any worse in that one, but maybe we'll see him tonight possibly. I'm not really sure. So my pick for this game, I'm actually going to go with the Redwoods here. I think the Redwoods just have too many shooters in that offense, too much offense going on there, that if they can kind of take another step forward from Saturday's game, I think that they'll be fine and they can bounce back from that game against the Whipsnakes. I think that the Chaos, I haven't really seen enough of them yet, and I wasn't really that high on them as it was going into this championship series, so I'll take the Redwoods in this one. The Twitter polls that I've been doing, the pick is in, and the Redwoods are the favorite in that one as well. And then finally, we got the Atlas against the Archers. The Atlas at 1-0. The Archers, as I mentioned earlier, making their PLL Championship Series debut tonight. And this is the game where we'll see number 1 overall pick Grant Ament make his debut for the first time professionally. And the Archers offense is scary on paper with Ament, Holman, and Manny, which I kind of alluded to just a minute ago at attack. Also factoring in guys like Tom Schreiber up top, dodging off that two-man game with Dominique Alexander. Again, I already mentioned that. Defensively, the Archers still feature two of the league's best in terms of caused turnovers in Scott Ratliff and Matt McMahon. McMahon being on my fantasy team, so I'm really hoping for a big game from him tonight because I kind of need it right now. And then the Atlas will be on the second game of a back-to-back, and if the NBA is any indication of that, the second day of a back-to-back is always the toughest because the team that's playing in that back-to-back is already kind of drained from the game before. So I think that seeing how the Atlas recover from yesterday's game against the Water Dogs will be very important to the way that they play tonight. And again, like I mentioned, I want to see them move the ball a little more freely within that offense and not just have it stick inverted behind the cage at X with guys like Rob Pennell. I want to see them move the ball up top like they did a year ago with guys like Rabel and Tinney and Busick. I think Ryan Brown got involved early in the game on Sunday, but they kind of went away from him as the game went on. I want to see them go back to him a little more as well and really just kind of get everybody involved, because I mentioned it in one of our past episodes on the podcast. It would be interesting to see how they got everybody involved in this offense, and really it seemed like they weren't trying all that hard to do that yesterday, so I'd like to see them open it up a little more, and I think if they can do that, they can score with this Archers team. And I think that based on some of the defensive performance we saw against the Water Dogs yesterday, they might have to score with them in order to have a chance at this one. So my pick for this game is I'm actually going to go with the Archers here. I would love to take the Atlas, but on that second day of the back-to-back, it'll be interesting to see how they recover. I think that the MLL kind of alluded to how these teams can recover when playing in back-to-back games, because I forget who it was, but one of the teams actually played the first 4 days straight of that MLL series that just concluded the other day. So I think it'll definitely be up to how the Atlas are able to recover here on that second night of a back-to-back. But I'll take the Archers here as kind of the safe bet on this one. And then looking at the Twitter poll is actually unanimous right now, 12-0 in favor of the Archers. So everybody must be really excited about the debut of Grant Ament along with that kind of retooled Archers offense, but we'll see what happens tonight. And that's all I got for you guys on episode 30 of Taking the Field with Stevie Mac. Make sure to like, comment, and share on this post. Also check out past episodes from the championship series on the podcast on YouTube, SoundCloud, and Podchaser by searching Taking the Field with Stevie Mac. And I'll talk to you guys later.